The lecture hall hummed with the quiet chatter of 24 species, each voice carrying a different tone and texture. Maya Carter slipped into her usual seat in the back row, her notebook already open, her pen ready. She preferred it here. The back corner gave her a clear view of everything. The door, the windows that showed the stars streaming past, and every student scattered across the tiered seating. She was not remarkable to look at. Average height for a human, brown hair pulled into a simple ponytail, wearing the standard academy uniform that every student wore. Her face held no particular beauty or ugliness. She simply existed in that comfortable middle ground where most people forgot her moments after looking away. The Galactic Council Educational Exchange Program had seemed like a dream when she first received her acceptance letter. The Academy ship traveled through neutral space, hosting the best and from dozens of worlds. Maya had grown up in the mountains of Colorado, the daughter and granddaughter of park rangers. She knew how to read trails, track animals, and survive in places that killed the unprepared. But diplomacy, that was new territory. She liked learning, she liked listening, and she especially liked watching how different species interacted with each other. Professor, a floating gas-based being from the collective, drifted to the front of the classroom. The translation device built into every desk converted his frequency emissions into understandable speech. Today's lesson covered trade route negotiations, something Maya found less interesting than the xenobiology classes, but she took notes anyway. Halfway through the lecture, she felt it again, that familiar prickle at the back of her neck. Someone was watching her. Maya did not turn around. She had learned long ago that sudden movements drew more attention. Instead, she shifted slightly in her seat, using the motion to glance up from her notes. 3 rows ahead and to the left sat a student whose species resembled the big cats from Earth, though he stood nearly 7 feet tall when upright. His fur was a deep auburn, marked with darker stripes. His eyes, golden and slitted, were locked onto her. He stared at her the way a mountain lion had once stared at Maya when she was 12, hiking alone near her home. That same fixed intensity, that same coiled readiness. Maya met his gaze for a brief moment, then looked back down at her notes. She did not smile or frown. She simply acknowledged him and moved on. But was not the only one. Over the past 3 weeks since classes began, Maya had noticed a pattern. Every predator species in the academy seemed drawn to her location. Not in a friendly way, not in a romantic way, in the way that hunters tracked movement in tall grass. The security officer who patrolled the corridors always seemed to know exactly where Maya was. She had tested it once, taking an unusual route to the dining hall. He had been there anyway, positioned where he could watch her approach. They looked like Earth's ancient dinosaurs, all scales and claws and teeth. Their species had evolved from apex predators, and their instincts had kept them alive for millions of years. Those instincts apparently screamed warnings about Maya Carter. Her roommate had started to notice. Belonged to a gentle herbivore species with soft gray fur and large dark eyes. She reminded Maya of a rabbit, though stood about 4 feet tall and had 6 limbs instead of 4. They were prey animals, evolved to run and hide, and had very good instincts about danger. Maya had whispered 2 nights ago, her nose twitching nervously. "Why does the student always stare at you? And the guards, and those in our physics class?" Maya had shrugged. "I don't know, maybe I look strange to them." "Strange is not the same as dangerous," had replied, her ears flat against her head. "They look at you like you are dangerous." Maya had not known how to respond to that. She was 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighed about 130 pounds. She had no weapons, no military training, no special combat skills. She could hike for hours without getting tired, and she knew how to start a fire in the rain, but that hardly made her dangerous. The lecture ended. Students began filing out, their various forms of locomotion creating a strange dance of wings, legs, tentacles, and hovering fields. Maya packed her notebook and stood, slinging her bag over one shoulder. Was waiting by the door. He did not block her path. He simply stood there, his tall frame taking up space, his golden eyes tracking her every movement. Maya walked toward the exit at her normal pace. Not fast, not slow. She did not change direction or show any sign of nervousness. As she passed him, made a low sound in his throat. Not a growl exactly, more like the rumble a cat makes when uncertain. "Good lecture," Maya said pleasantly, the same way she had greeted fellow hikers on mountain trails back home. Blinked, clearly surprised she had spoken. He managed a stiff nod. Maya continued down the corridor toward the dining hall. Behind her, she heard fall into step, maintaining a distance of about 10 feet. She had noticed he always stayed that far back, close enough to observe, far enough to react if needed. React to what? Maya had no idea. The dining hall buzzed with activity. The Academy's food synthesizers could produce meals for nearly any biology, and students clustered in groups based on shared chemistry. Maya grabbed a tray of something resembling pasta and found an empty table near the viewing window. She was not alone for long. Hopped over, her plate loaded with various vegetables and what looked like purple grain. They settled into the seat across from Maya, all 6 limbs folding in a way that still looked uncomfortable to human eyes. "He followed you again," said quietly, her large eyes darting toward where sat with other predator species. "This is not normal, Maya. I talked to the headmaster." Maya looked up from her food. "You did what?" "I was worried." Ears twitched rapidly, a sign of distress. "All these predator species watching you, following you, it is not safe. I thought the headmaster should know." "What did he say?" "He said I was overreacting. He said they are naturally curious about species they do not know well. He said humans are new to the council, only 15 years since first contact, so of course there is interest." Leaned forward. "But Maya, this is not curiosity. I have seen curiosity. This is something else." Maya ate a few bites of her pasta while she thought. She had noticed the pattern too, but she honestly did not feel threatened. The predator species kept their distance. They watched, but they never approached with aggression. If anything, they seemed wary of her. "I think," Maya said slowly, "they are just being careful. It is instinct. They cannot help it." "Careful of what, you?" Maya shrugged. "Maybe humans make them nervous." Snow's twitched in the equivalent of a laugh. "You? Nervous? Maya, you are the quietest person I know. You never raise your voice. You never argue. You sit in back rows and take notes and smile at everyone. How could you make a warrior nervous?" Maya did not have a good answer for that. The next day brought a field trip to a nearby trading station. The Academy ship docked at the massive structure, and students were given free time to explore the markets under faculty supervision. Maya wandered the stalls admiring the incredible variety of goods from across the galaxy. The station was crowded. Hundreds of species moved through the corridors, buying, selling, trading. The noise was overwhelming, a mix of languages and sounds that the translation devices struggled to keep up with. Maya paused at a stall selling crystals from a mining colony. The vendor, a rock-like being whose species she did not recognize, explained that the crystals changed color based on emotional resonance. Maya picked one up, watching it shift from blue to green in her palm. That was when she felt it, that same prickle of attention, but stronger now, more focused. She looked up. Across the crowded marketplace, standing near a weapons dealer, was a member of the Hunters Guild. Maya recognized the tattoos that marked his status, the scars that told of successful hunts. His species was massive reptilian beings known for their strength and ferocity. This one stood at least 8 feet tall, his scales dark green and battle-scarred. He was staring directly at her. Their eyes met across the distance. The vertical pupils contracted. Then slowly, deliberately, he stepped backward. He did not turn around. He kept his eyes on Maya as he retreated into the crowd, his massive frame disappearing among the stalls. He had backed away from her. Maya set down the crystal and paid for it, her hands steady. Had gone pale beneath her gray fur. "Did you see that? That was a guild hunter. They fear nothing. Why did he back away from you?" Maya tucked the crystal into her pocket. "I don't know." But she was starting to suspect she did know. She just did not want to say it out loud. Not yet. That evening, back in their shared quarters, finally demanded answers. "Maya, please, you must see it now. Every predator we passed in that market turned to watch you, even the dangerous ones, especially the dangerous ones. What is it about you? What are they sensing?" Maya sat on her bunk looking out at the stars. She thought about her grandfather who had tracked bears through the wilderness. She thought about her mother who had once stared down a pack of wolves to protect hikers. She thought about Earth, with its extreme weather, its dangerous animals, its 1,000 ways to die. She thought about how humans had survived anyway. "They are just being cautious," Maya said quietly. "It is instinct." "Instinct to fear what?" pressed. Maya met her roommate's eyes. "Maybe they know something we do not, could not sleep, again." He lay in his quarters, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing. Every instinct his species had developed over millions of years told him the same thing: danger, threat, predator. But the target of these warnings made no sense. Maya Carter was small, quiet. She smiled at people in hallways. She helped other students with their homework. She had never shown aggression to anyone. And yet, rolled onto his side, his claws digging into the mattress. There were apex hunters. On there, they had no natural enemies. Their senses had been honed by evolution to detect threats before those threats could strike. His grandfather had once told him that a who ignored his instincts was a dead. So why were all his instincts screaming about a human girl who sat in back rows and took notes? He rose before dawn, the ship's artificial cycle just beginning to brighten the corridors. He needed answers. More importantly, he needed to know if he was losing his mind or if others felt it too. The message he sent was simple: meeting, common room 7, important. By the time he arrived, 5 others were already waiting. All predator species, all looking as tired and frustrated as felt. There was a whose scales gleamed dark blue in the morning light. His species had evolved from pack hunters and served as part of the ship's security detail. Beside him sat a whose thick fur and powerful build reminded of Earth's bears, though stood upright and had far more intelligent eyes. The representative, a being named whose form and compound eyes made him look alien even among aliens, perched on the back of a chair. 2 others had come as well, both from species knew little about, but their posture and bearing marked them as hunters. "Thank you for coming," said, settling into a seat sized for his frame. "I need to know if I am alone in this or if you feel it too." The human said immediately, "Maya Carter." Felt relief wash through him. "Yes, you sense it too." "Every time she enters a room, my threat assessment instincts activate," admitted. "It is maddening. She has done nothing aggressive. She carries no weapons, but my body reacts as though she is the most dangerous being on this ship." Leaned forward, her massive paws clasped together. "I have tried to ignore it. I thought perhaps I was being foolish. The pride themselves on rational thought. We are not simple beasts ruled by instinct." She paused. "But the instinct will not be silenced. When Maya Carter walks past me, every hair on my body stands up. My heart rate increases. I want to either run or fight, and I do not understand why." Clicked his mandibles, the sound expressing frustration. "The hunt in swarms. We fear nothing alone because we are never alone. But that human, when I see her, I want the safety of my swarm. It makes no sense." The others shared similar stories. All predator species. All experiencing the same inexplicable reaction to a quiet human student. "I have observed her carefully," said, "looking for any sign of threat, any hidden weapon, any aggressive tendency, anything that would justify what we feel." And prompted. "Nothing. She is exactly what she appears to be: friendly, helpful, quiet. She sits in the back of classrooms. She takes notes. She smiles at people. The herbivore species love her. She has befriended that, and I have seen her help smaller species reach high shelves in the library." "Then why," demanded, "why do we all feel this way?" Had been thinking about this for days. "I have a theory. We need to research humans more carefully, not just their diplomatic files or their cultural overview. We need to know where they come from, what they evolved from." Straightened. "You think there is the answer?" "They evolved on a world of open grasslands and scattered forests. Plenty of prey, some competition from other predators, but manageable. Our instincts developed to hunt efficiently and avoid unnecessary fights." Looked around the group. What if humans evolved in a place where those instincts would be different, where the threats were different? Within an hour, they had gathered in the ship's library, accessing the public database on Earth and humanity. What they found made their concerns deepen rather than ease. "Class 12, read aloud, his voice tight. "Out of thousands of worlds, only 17 are rated Class 10 or higher. Only 4 species on the Galactic Council evolved on worlds above Class 8. Was reading another screen. Earth's gravity is 1.3 times standard. Its temperature range spans 200 degrees. It has active tectonics, extreme weather patterns, and an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere that would be toxic to most species without filtration. "Look at the predators," one of the other students said, pulling up images. "They had things called bears that weighed 800 pounds, cats called tigers that hunted alone, packs of wolves, ocean predators called sharks that had existed for 400 million years." Was very still, his compound eyes fixed on a particular file. "They were prey too. Early humans were hunted by these creatures, but humans survived. How asked? The answer was there in the files, spread across thousands of documents. Humans had survived by being more persistent, more adaptable, and more clever than everything trying to kill them. They were endurance predators. They could run for hours, tracking prey until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies could heal from injuries that would kill most species. They could eat an enormous variety of foods, allowing them to survive in nearly any environment. They had developed complex social structures, working together in groups to bring down prey much larger than themselves. And they were tool users, not just simple tools, but sophisticated weapons and strategies. They had gone from basic stone tools to nuclear weapons in the blink of an evolutionary eye. 10,000 years, said quietly. They went from primitive hunters to splitting atoms in 10,000 years. Most species take 100,000 years to develop space flight. They are also the only species that regularly fought wars against their own kind, added, reading from a historical file. Most species had conflicts, but humans perfected organized violence. They studied it. They created entire philosophies around it. The group sat in silence, processing this information. So our instincts are correct, finally said. Humans are apex predators from a world that tried to kill them every day. They survived because they were more dangerous than everything else. But Maya is not violent, one of the others protested. None of the human students are. They follow all the rules. They are friendly and cooperative. Thought about this? On Maya, the most dangerous hunters are the ones who know how to be patient, the ones who can wait still and silent until the perfect moment to strike. He paused. Maya Carter sits in the back row where she can see everything. She always knows where the exits are. She never puts her back to an open door. She moves efficiently, never wasting energy. These are not the habits of prey. You are saying she is hunting? Asked. No, I am saying she is always ready. For what I do not know, maybe for nothing. Maybe it is just how humans are. The meeting broke up eventually, but could not let it go. That evening, he found Professor, an elder who taught military history, had been in active service before retiring to teaching, and rumor said he had seen combat in the border conflicts 20 years ago. Professor said, catching the old warrior in his office, I need to ask you about humans. His ears flicked back, a sign of wariness. What about them? Did you ever encounter them, in combat? The professor was quiet for a long moment. Then he gestured for to close the door and sit down. I was part of a peacekeeping force in the Outer Rim, began. There was a dispute over a mining colony. The humans had a small delegation there protecting their interests. When fighting broke out, we thought the humans would evacuate. They were new to the council, unknown, and there were only 30 of them. What happened? They did not evacuate. They dug in and held a position that should have been impossible to defend. We watched them fight for 3 days straight without sleeping. They ate while moving, took turns providing cover fire, and adapted to every tactic used against them. His claws tapped on his desk. One of their soldiers took a wound that should have been fatal. We all saw it happen. He kept fighting for another 6 hours before accepting medical treatment. Felt his fur standing on end. How did it end? The humans proposed a negotiation. They had captured key positions while everyone else was focused on the main battle. They had cut supply lines, disabled communications, and positioned themselves to control the entire conflict. And they did it with 30 soldiers while the rest of us had thousands. Met's eyes. They won not because they were stronger or more numerous, but because they thought differently than everyone else. What should I know about them? Your instincts are correct, said firmly. Humans are apex predators from a world that taught them to survive at any cost. But here is what most people miss. They do not want to be predators. They would prefer to be friends, to cooperate, to build things together. The dangerous part is that they can be both. They can be kind and gentle right up until the moment they need to be something else. So Maya Carter, if she is anything like the humans I met, then she is exactly as dangerous as she needs to be. Right now, she needs to be a student, so that is what she is. But if circumstances changed, shook his head. The quiet ones are always the most dangerous. They have learned to hide it. Left the professor's office with more questions than answers. He understood now why his instincts screamed warnings about Maya. The question was what to do with that knowledge. The announcement came during breakfast. A special seminar had been added to the schedule, Adaptations and Relations. The lecturer would be Doctor, a human who had been traveling with the Academy ship as a guest researcher. Maya had met Doctor once in passing. The older woman was tall, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She reminded Maya of her grandmother, who could spot a deer track from 50 yards away and tell you how old it was. The seminar was optional, but the lecture hall filled quickly. Maya arrived early and took her usual seat in the back row. She noticed that most of the predator species students were there, including and his group. They sat together in the middle section, watching the front of the room with intense focus. Hopped into the seat beside Maya, her nose twitching with excitement. I have never attended a lecture by a human before. This should be interesting. Doctor entered precisely on time. She wore casual clothing instead of the formal academy attire, and she moved with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in her own skin. She smiled at the assembled students and began without preamble. "Most of you are here because you are confused," she said, her voice carrying easily through the room. "You have noticed that predator species react strangely to humans. Some of you are predators yourselves and cannot explain why your instincts activate around my species. Some of you are prey species who have noticed this reaction and wonder if you should be worried." Several students shifted in their seats. Doctor had named the exact issue that had been building for weeks. "I am here to explain why this happens. To do that, I need to tell you about Earth and about how humans evolved." She pulled up a display showing a blue and green planet. "This is beautiful, is it not? Forests and oceans and mountains. It looks peaceful from space." The image zoomed in, showing a massive storm system covering half a continent. Lightning flashed inside clouds that reached miles into the atmosphere. Earth is classified as a Class 12. For those of you unfamiliar with the classification system, that means it is extremely hostile to life. The temperature can swing from -40 degrees to +50 degrees Celsius. The weather includes hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, and droughts. The planet has active volcanoes, frequent earthquakes, and areas with radiation levels that would kill most species within hours. A student raised a paw nervously, but humans evolved there. Not just evolved, thrived. Doctor changed the image to show various Earth environments. Humans live in deserts where the temperature exceeds 50 degrees. We live in Arctic regions where it drops to -50. We live on mountains where the air is so thin most species would suffocate. We have adapted to survive in conditions that would be fatal to almost everyone in this room. She pulled up biological diagrams showing human anatomy. "Let me explain some of our physical adaptations. First, our eyes. Notice they face forward. This is a predator trait. Forward-facing eyes provide depth perception, which is crucial for hunting. Prey species typically have eyes on the sides of their heads to watch for danger in all directions." Leaned forward in his seat, his ears fully upright. "Humans are also endurance predators," Doctor continued. "This is rare in nature. Most predators are sprinters. They chase prey in short, fast bursts. Humans are different. We can run for hours without stopping. Our ancient ancestors would track an animal for days, following it until it collapsed from exhaustion. No other predator on Earth hunted this way." She showed footage of a human marathon, hundreds of people running for over 2 hours straight. The alien students watched in visible shock. "Our bodies have an extremely efficient cooling system through sweating. This allows us to regulate temperature while moving. Most animals must stop to cool down. Humans do not. We also have an unusual pain tolerance. Our bodies produce chemicals called endorphins that reduce pain and allow us to function through injuries that would incapacitate other species." A student spoke up. "But humans are not that strong physically. I have seen the statistics. By galactic standards, you are average at best." "True," Doctor agreed. "In terms of raw strength, humans are not impressive, but we compensate in other ways. We are tool users. We create weapons and strategies. And most importantly, we are pack hunters with extremely sophisticated social cooperation." She pulled up historical images showing human tribes working together to hunt massive animals. Humans learned to communicate complex ideas, to plan ahead, to work as coordinated units. We developed language, strategy, and the ability to pass knowledge between generations. This allowed us to hunt prey much larger and stronger than ourselves. The lecture continued, diving deeper into human evolution. Doctor explained how humans had spread across Earth, adapting to every environment they encountered. She showed images of humans climbing mountains because they were there, diving into ocean depths, exploring frozen wastelands. "Humans are also the only species that regularly engaged in organized warfare against our own kind," she said, her tone becoming more serious. This is unusual in nature. Most species fight for territory or mates, but the conflicts are limited. Humans developed complex warfare, creating weapons and tactics specifically to fight other humans. This drove rapid innovation in everything from metallurgy to psychology. She pulled up a timeline. 10,000 years ago, humans were using basic stone tools and living in small tribes. 5,000 years ago, we had developed agriculture, cities, and writing. 2,000 years ago, we had complex governments and trade networks spanning continents. 200 years ago, we industrialized. 70 years ago, we split the atom. 15 years ago, we achieved faster-than-light travel. The silence in the room was profound. Several students were doing calculations on their tablets, trying to comprehend the speed of human technological development. Most species take 100,000 years to reach space flight, Doctor said quietly. Humans did it in 10,000. We did not evolve in peaceful conditions. We evolved in a world that tried to kill us every single day. Every innovation, every tool, every social structure developed because we needed it to survive. Raised her paw. Doctor, if humans are such dangerous predators, why are you here? Why join the Galactic Council? Why not conquer? Doctor smiled. Because humans learned something important during our evolution. We learned that cooperation is more valuable than conquest. We learned that building is better than destroying. We learned that making friends is smarter than making enemies. She paused. But that does not mean we have forgotten how to fight. It means we choose not to unless we must. She turned to a new slide, and Maya suddenly realized it was showing her own image. She sat up, surprised. Let me use Maya Carter as an example, Doctor said. Maya, would you mind standing? Maya stood, feeling dozens of eyes turned toward her. She tried to keep her expression neutral. Maya grew up in the Rocky Mountains of North America, Doctor explained. Her family has been park rangers for 3 generations. She learned to track animals, to survive in wilderness, to read weather patterns and terrain. These are basic skills where she comes from. Most human children learn versions of these skills. The alien students stared at Maya with new understanding. Notice how Maya stands? Weight balanced, knees slightly bent, ready to move in any direction. This is not conscious. This is training that has become automatic. Notice how she knows exactly where every exit is in this room, how she positioned herself to see the entire space. This is not paranoia. This is how humans from certain backgrounds naturally behave. Maya felt her cheeks warm with embarrassment, but she remained still. Maya is not a soldier. She is not specially trained in combat. She is simply a human who learned to survive in a hostile environment, and that, students, is why your instincts react to her. Your ancestral programming recognizes an apex predator. You are not wrong to feel cautious. Your instincts are doing exactly what they evolved to do. Doctor gestured for Maya to sit, which she did gratefully. Now let me show you something important. The display changed to show footage of human athletic competitions. Students watched as humans ran incredible distances, lifted enormous weights, and performed feats of endurance that seemed impossible. Then the footage shifted to something different. A human soldier in a war zone, carrying a wounded comrade through hostile territory. The soldier ran for miles, refusing to leave his friend behind, even when logic said he should. Humans have something we call loyalty, Doctor said softly. When we bond with others, whether our own kind or alien species, we will die for them. This is not metaphor. This is literal. Humans will sacrifice themselves for those they consider family or friends. She showed more footage. Humans diving into dangerous situations to rescue others. Humans standing between threats and those they protected. Humans choosing to help even when it cost them dearly. So yes, Doctor concluded, humans are apex predators from yes, we are dangerous when we need to be. But we are also capable of great compassion, loyalty, and sacrifice. We would rather build than destroy, heal than harm, cooperate than conquer. The important thing to understand is that we can be both. We can be gentle friends and terrible enemies sometimes in the same day. She looked around the room. Your instincts are not wrong. They are just incomplete. Maya Carter, sitting quietly in the back row taking notes, is the same Maya Carter who could track you through a forest, outrun you over distance, and survive in places that would kill you. But she chooses to be a student and a friend. That choice is what makes humans truly remarkable. The lecture ended with a long question and answer session. Maya sat quietly, listening to her classmates process what they had learned. Some seemed frightened. Others seemed fascinated. A few looked at her with new respect. When the seminar finally ended, approached Maya's seat, tensed beside her, but Maya remained calm. "I understand now," said, "why my instincts react to you. You are an apex predator like but you hunt differently than we do." Maya considered this. "I do not hunt at all, I am just a student." "But you could," he said. It was not a question. Maya thought about her grandfather teaching her to track elk through mountain passes, her mother showing her how to build shelter in a blizzard. The summers spent hiking alone through wilderness where one mistake meant death. She thought about how those skills had become as natural as breathing. "If I needed to," she said honestly, "yes, I could." Nodded slowly. Then, to Maya's surprise, he extended his paw in the human gesture of greeting he had seen others use. "Then I am glad you are here as a friend and not an enemy." Maya shook his paw, her small hand disappearing in his much larger one. "Me too." As Maya left the lecture hall, the looked up at her friend with wide eyes. "Maya, I had no idea about any of it. Does this change things between us?" Maya smiled gently. "I am the same person I was this morning. Nothing about me has changed. You just know more about where I come from now." "But you really could track me, hunt me." The alarm woke Maya from a deep sleep. Not the gentle morning chime that signaled the start of the ship's day cycle, but a harsh, urgent blaring that meant emergency. She was out of bed and dressed in under a minute, her hands moving automatically through the familiar motions. Was still tangled in her blankets, her ears flat with fear. "What is happening?" Thea asked, her voice high with panic. Maya pulled on her boots, her mind already working through possibilities. "Stay calm, get dressed, we need to find out what the emergency is." The ship's intercom crackled to life. "All students and faculty report to the main assembly hall immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Maya joined the stream of students flooding into the corridors. The crowd moved in organized chaos, dozens of species shuffling toward the assembly hall. Maya kept close, using her body to shield the smaller being from getting trampled. The assembly hall was massive, designed to hold the entire academy population. Maya guided toward the seating area, her eyes scanning for exits and potential problems. Something felt wrong. The faculty members looked too tense, too afraid. Then she saw why. The syndicate had taken the ship. A dozen massive reptilian beings stood around the perimeter of the hall, each one armed with weapons that looked capable of cutting through ship hull. They were enormous, 8 to 9 feet tall, covered in thick scales that could probably stop small arms fire. Their leader stood on the raised platform at the front of the hall, his dark green scales marked with scars that told of countless battles. "Sit down and be quiet," the leader growled, his voice amplified through the room's speakers. "If you cooperate, no one gets hurt. We are here for ransom, not bloodshed. Your families and governments will pay for your safe return." Maya sat down slowly, her mind racing. The syndicate was notorious throughout the galaxy. They specialized in kidnapping high-value targets, and an academy ship full of wealthy students would be an irresistible prize. They had a reputation for overwhelming force and brutal efficiency. They had never lost a raid. Until now, Maya thought, but she kept that thought to herself. The pirates began moving through the crowd, scanning students with handheld devices. They were identifying the most valuable targets, the ones whose families could pay the highest ransoms. Maya watched their movements, noting their patrol patterns, their weapons placement, their communication methods. Beside her was shaking. Maya put a gentle hand on her friend's shoulder. "Breathe, stay calm, this will be okay." "How can you be so calm?" whispered. Maya did not answer. She was too busy counting. 12 pirates in the hall, at least 3 more would be on the bridge, probably a few in engineering. Maybe 20 total on a ship designed for a crew of 40. They were spread thin. The pirate leader, who wore markings that identified him began speaking again. "We will be contacting your families shortly. In the meantime, you will remain here under guard. Any attempt to resist will be met with immediate and severe consequences." That was when Maya noticed what was missing. She did a quick visual scan of the assembly hall, recognizing faces. Most of the students were there, most of the faculty. But she did not see Jake Palmer or Sophie Grant, the 2 other human students on the ship. Jake was an engineering major from California. Sophie studied xenobiology and came from Texas. They were both smart, resourceful, and from what Maya had observed, they had similar backgrounds to her own. Jake had mentioned growing up on a ranch. Sophie had talked about camping in Big Bend National Park. They were not in the assembly hall, which meant they had not been caught. Maya kept her face neutral, but inside hope sparked. 3 humans loose on the ship. 3 humans who knew how to adapt, how to survive, how to turn bad situations into advantages. The pirates finished their first sweep, examined the data on his tablet, nodding with satisfaction. Excellent, we have more than enough high-value targets. This will be a profitable venture. One of his subordinates approached, looking uncertain. Sir, the show's 3 students unaccounted for. Size narrowed, species. Humans. For the first time, looked less confident. He covered it quickly, but Maya saw the momentary hesitation. They might be brutal raiders, but they were not stupid. Humans had a reputation now, 15 years after joining the council. That reputation had apparently reached even the criminal underworld. Find them, ordered. 3 soft students should not be difficult to locate. Bring them here with the others. Teams of pirates left the assembly hall, weapons ready. Maya settled in to wait. She caught eye across the room. The student was watching her with intense focus. He had seen the missing humans too. He knew something was about to happen. 20 minutes passed, then 30. The pirates who had gone hunting did not return. His communicator crackled. Team 3 reporting. We found signs of the humans in the medical bay. They broke into the supply lockers and took emergency equipment. But they are gone now. Track them, snapped. Sir, we are trying, but they disabled the internal sensors in this section. We cannot get a clear reading. Scales darkened with anger. They are children playing at resistance. Find them and bring them here, now. Another 10 minutes. Another team reported in. Team 5, we found one of the humans in engineering, male, about 6 feet tall. He surrendered immediately. Bring him to the assembly hall. Sir, there is one thing. He is smiling. Maya felt her own lips twitch. Jake was smiling because he had done whatever he needed to do in engineering. He had surrendered because his job was complete. Jake was brought into the assembly hall, his hands behind his head in the universal gesture of surrender. He looked calm, almost relaxed. The pirates shoved him toward the other students, but Jake caught Maya's eye as he passed. He nodded once, very slightly. Message received. Studied Jake with suspicion. Where are the other 2 humans? Jake shrugged. I do not know. We split up when the alarm started. Seemed safer that way. You are lying. Probably, Jake agreed cheerfully, but you will have a hard time proving it. Raised his weapon, pointing it at Jake's chest. I could kill you right now. You could, Jake said, his voice steady. But then you would have killed a hostage, and that would make the others less valuable. Bad business decision. The pirate leader lowered his weapon, clearly frustrated. He sent more teams to search for the remaining humans. That was when the lights went out. Not all of them, just sections of the ship, flickering on and off in a pattern that seemed random. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing the assembly hall in dim red light. The pirates looked around nervously, their weapons raised. His communicator came alive with reports. Team 7, we are trapped in Section 4, the bulkhead sealed. Team 2, someone sabotaged the gravity controls in our area. We are floating. Team 6, there are tripwires in the corridors. We need to move slowly. Maya watched as the confident raiding party began to unravel. The pirates were used to overwhelming force, to intimidating their targets into submission. They were not used to their targets fighting back, especially not in such creative ways. The ship's intercom crackled. Maya recognized Sophie's voice, though it had a strange echo from whatever location she was broadcasting from. Attention, Syndicate. This is Sophie Grant, human student. You have one chance to leave this ship peacefully. Release the hostages, return to your vessel, and depart. You have 10 minutes to comply. Laughed, though it sounded forced. You are a child playing with systems you do not understand. Surrender now, and I will be lenient. You misunderstand the situation, Sophie replied, her voice still calm. We are not playing. We are giving you a chance to survive. Your choice. I have dozens of hostages. You have nothing. We have control of life support, navigation, and communications. We have disabled your ship's docking clamps, so you cannot leave even if you wanted to. And we have been systematically eliminating your teams for the past 30 minutes. His expression changed. What do you mean, eliminating? They are alive, Sophie said, But they are no longer a factor. Check your team count. Pulled up his tactical display. Maya saw his scales pale. Of the 20 pirates who had boarded the ship, only 8 were still responding to communications. The others had been neutralized somehow. How demanded? Humans are very good at adapting to new environments, Sophie said. We learn fast, and we have been studying this ship system since we arrived. We know every access panel, every emergency override, every weakness in the design. You are operating in our territory now. Jake spoke up from his position among the students. You should have done better research on humans before attacking a ship with us on board. We do not react well to threats against people we care about. Pointed his weapon at Jake again. I will start killing hostages if you do not surrender. There was a pause, then Maya heard a new voice over the intercom. Her own voice broadcast from somewhere else in the ship. If you harm anyone in that room, we will stop being nice. Maya sat perfectly still, her face neutral, but inside she was impressed. Sophie had somehow accessed her communicator and was using recordings to broadcast. It was a smart psychological tactic. The recording of Maya's voice continued. Right now, you are all alive and unharmed. We have gone out of our way to be careful with your people. But if you cross the line, if you hurt anyone here, we will show you what humans are really capable of. Trust me, you do not want that. The pirate leader looked around the assembly hall, his weapon wavering. His remaining teams were reporting strange sounds, shadows moving in the corridors, systems malfunctioning in ways that seemed targeted and deliberate. The humans were hunting now, not for kills but for control, and they were winning. 5 minutes, Sophie's voice came back over the intercom. Decide now, peaceful surrender or we stop being gentle. Maya watched the pirate leader struggle with his pride and his survival instinct. The syndicate had never been defeated. The cargo bay had been converted into a temporary holding area. 8 pirates sat in a circle, their weapons confiscated, their hands bound with emergency medical tape. They looked defeated and angry, but mostly they looked confused. The legendary syndicate had never surrendered before, certainly not to a handful of students. Maya watched from the observation deck above the cargo bay, Sophie and Jake standing beside her. Council security forces would arrive within the hour, but until then, the 3 humans were keeping watch. That was good work, Maya said quietly. Both of you. Jake grinned. I just disabled a few systems and made some noise. Sophie did the heavy technical lifting. Sophie shook her head. We work together, that is what humans do, she looked at Maya. But I am curious, when did you slip away from the assembly hall? I did not, Maya admitted. I stayed with the other students the whole time. I figured if was watching me, he would not notice what you two were doing. So you were bait, Jake said. I prefer to think of it as being a distraction. The 3 of them had not planned this. There had been no time for coordination, no way to communicate once the pirates boarded, but they had all reacted the same way, using similar tactics, working toward the same goal. It was what Doctor had talked about in her lecture. Humans were pack hunters with sophisticated social cooperation. Even without direct communication, they had moved as a unit. Sophie pulled up a tactical display. The other 12 pirates are secured in various sections of the ship. None seriously injured, though a few are going to have headaches. The faculty is checking on them now. How did you take them down? Maya asked. Carefully, Sophie said. Environmental controls mostly. We would seal a section, flood it with sleep gas from the medical supplies, then move in and restrain them while they were unconscious. Jake rigged some mechanical traps that slowed them down. I handled the computer systems and life support. And I provided the psychological warfare, Jake added. Humans have a reputation now. I made sure they knew exactly who was hunting them. The fear did half our work for us. Maya nodded. It was a smart strategy. They were physically superior to humans in almost every way, stronger and more heavily armored. But humans had learned long ago that physical strength meant nothing if you controlled the environment and the information. We should go down there, Maya said. The students need to see that we are not monsters, that we chose mercy when we could have chosen otherwise. The 3 humans descended to the main assembly hall, where the students and faculty had gathered after being released. The reaction was immediate. Some students cheered. Others looked frightened. The predator species, including and his group, watched with expressions that mixed respect and wariness. Broke from the crowd and rushed to Maya, her 6 limbs moving in a blur. Maya, I was so worried. When the lights went out and those announcements started, I thought the pirates were going to kill everyone. Maya caught her friend in a gentle hug. I would not let that happen. None of us would. But how did you do it? There were only 3 of you against 20 armed pirates. We used what we had, Maya said simply. The ship systems, our knowledge, and their overconfidence. They expected us to be helpless. That was their mistake. Doctor appeared, looking relieved but also troubled. That was incredibly dangerous. You 3 could have been killed. Jake shrugged. We could have been killed by sitting quietly too. At least this way we had some control over the outcome. You took on the Syndicate, the professor said. They are feared throughout the galaxy. How did you know you could win? Sophie answered this time. We did not know, but we ran the calculations. If we did nothing, the probability of harm to the students was high. If we acted, we could change those odds. Humans are very good at risk assessment under pressure. Approached, moving slowly to avoid seeming threatening. I need to understand something. How did you eliminate 12 trained warriors without killing any of them? They are not easy to subdue. We did not want to kill them, Maya said. We just wanted to stop them. There is a difference. But you could have killed them. Maya thought about the moments during the crisis when lethal force would have been easier than non-lethal solutions. The times when a simple switch could have vented atmosphere from a section, or when a bulkhead could have been closed with crushing force instead of gentle pressure. The humans had deliberately chosen the harder path. Yes, she admitted, we could have, but that would have made us no better than them. Humans learned a long time ago that having the power to destroy does not mean you should use it. The student sat down, his large frame settling into a position that suggested respect among his people. I understand now what Doctor meant in her lecture. You are apex predators, but you choose when to hunt and when to show mercy. That makes you more dangerous, not less. It makes us human, Maya corrected gently. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. We have done terrible things in our history, but we try to be better. We try to choose the right path, even when the wrong path would be easier. More students gathered around, curiosity overcoming fear. They had questions. How had the humans learned to use the ship system so quickly? How had they coordinated without communication? How had they stayed calm under such pressure? Jake fielded most of the technical questions, explaining how growing up on a ranch taught you to fix things with limited resources. Sophie talked about the importance of understanding systems, whether they were ecosystems or computer networks. Maya shared stories about survival training in the mountains, where staying calm meant staying alive. As the conversations continued, Maya noticed something changing. The predator species were no longer watching her with fear or wariness. They were watching with understanding. She was not a threat to them. She was simply someone with different skills, different training, different instincts. Hours later, after Council security had arrived and taken the pirates into custody, Maya found herself back in the quarters she shared with. The head made tea, a calming blend from her that smelled like flowers and earth. I have been thinking, said as they sat together looking out at the stars, about what happened today, about what you and Jake and Sophie did, about what it means to be human. What have you concluded? Maya asked. That I am very glad you are my friend and not my enemy. His nose twitched in the version of a smile. But also that I do not understand how you can be so dangerous and so kind at the same time. Maya sipped her tea, considering the question. On Earth, we have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. It means you should be polite and friendly, but also be capable of protecting yourself and others if needed. The big stick is your ability to fight. The big stick is our ability to survive, Maya corrected. Fighting is just one tool in that survival kit, but so is cooperation, compassion, and choosing mercy. Humans learned that the hard way. We fought each other for thousands of years before we figured out that working together was better. Do you think other species can learn that too? I think most species already know it, Maya said. The Galactic Council exists because different worlds chose cooperation over conflict. Humans are just late to the party. The next day, Doctor called another seminar. This time, the lecture hall was even more crowded. Word had spread about what the human students had done, and everyone wanted to understand. Yesterday proved what I was trying to explain in my previous lecture, Doctor began. Humans are capable of remarkable things when necessary, but I want to emphasize something that I think got lost in all the excitement. Maya, Jake, and Sophie did not set out to prove human superiority. They set out to protect their friends. She pulled up footage from the security cameras showing the three humans working through the ship. Watch how they move. They are not trying to hurt the pirates unnecessarily. They are using minimal force to achieve maximum effect. When they had the trapped and helpless, they chose to keep them safe rather than exact revenge. The footage showed Sophie carefully monitoring the unconscious pirates' vital signs, making sure the sleep gas had not harmed them. It showed Jake leaving water and basic supplies near the trapped groups, ensuring they would not suffer even in defeat. This is what makes humans truly remarkable, Doctor said. Not our capacity for violence, but our capacity for choosing something better. We come from a world that taught us to be hard, to be relentless, to survive at any cost. But we also learned compassion, mercy, and the value of life, even the lives of those who threatened us. She looked around the room. Your instincts about humans are not wrong. We are apex predators. We are dangerous when we need to be, but we are also capable of great kindness. The two things are not contradictory. They are complementary. Being strong enough to destroy makes the choice not to destroy meaningful. After the lecture approached Maya in the corridor. He was not alone, and several other predator species students were with him. We wanted to apologize, said formally, for watching you with suspicion, for treating you like a threat. Maya shook her head. Your instincts were not wrong. I am what you sensed. I just choose to use those abilities for protection instead of aggression. We understand that now, said her deep voice rumbling. We also wanted to ask something. Would you be willing to train with us, to share your knowledge of tactics and survival? We could learn from each other. Maya smiled. I would like that, but I am not a warrior. I am just someone who knows how to not die in bad situations. That is exactly what we want to learn, said. We are hunters, but we rely on strength and speed. What you did yesterday required a different kind of thinking, a human kind of thinking. Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened. The predator species students began sitting near Maya in classes, not to watch her with suspicion, but because they felt safer with her nearby. Study groups formed that mixed predator and prey species, with humans serving as a bridge between the two. Maya still sat in the back row, still took quiet notes, still maintained her habits of environmental awareness. But now when or the others glanced back at her, it was not with fear. It was with the knowledge that if danger came, they had an apex predator on their side. One evening, Maya sat in the observation lounge with a mixed group of students. Was there, along with, and half a dozen others. They were supposed to be studying for an exam, but the conversation had drifted to other topics. I have been curious about something, said, looking at Maya. When the pirates attacked, were you afraid? Maya considered the question honestly. Yes, I was afraid they would hurt my friends. I was afraid I would make a mistake and people would die because of it, but fear is not a bad thing. Fear keeps you alert. It is what you do with the fear that matters. You used it, observed, turned it into focus. My grandfather taught me that, Maya said. Fear is information. It tells you that something important is at stake. Once you accept that, you can work with it instead of against it. Looked up from her. I was terrified the entire time. I could not have done what you did. You did not need to, Maya said gently. You stayed calm, kept the other students from panicking, and trusted that help would come. That was your role. Everyone has different strengths. But human strengths are different, said. More versatile. You can be warriors, diplomats, engineers all at once. Or we can be none of those things, Maya countered. Some humans are artists who have never faced danger. Some are philosophers who think about ideas instead of action. We are not all the same. What happened with the pirates was unusual. Most humans will never need to use survival skills or tactical thinking. But you could if you needed to, said. That is the point. Humans have this reserve of capability that only appears in crisis. Maya thought about her species, spread across the galaxy now, making friends and building bridges. Most humans would never see combat. Most would never need to track prey through a wilderness or outwit armed raiders. But the capacity was there, buried in their genes and their cultural memory. We are what we need to be, she said finally. Right now, I need to be a student, so that is what I am. If circumstances were different, I might need to be something else. Humans are good at adapting. The conversation shifted to other topics, and the study group actually managed to get some work done. As the evening ended and students dispersed to their quarters, walked with Maya through the quiet corridors. I wanted to thank you, he said, for being patient with us. We treated you poorly at first, let our instincts override our judgment. You were being cautious, Maya said. There is nothing wrong with that. Your species survived because of those instincts. I would never ask you to ignore them. But we can choose to understand them better now, replied. We can recognize the difference between danger and someone who is capable of danger. You are capable, but you are not a threat, not to us. They reached the door to Maya's quarters. She paused before entering. Can I tell you something? Of course. I was watching you too. That first day in class when you kept looking at me, I noticed. I had as potential threat and kept track of your position at all times. The student looked surprised. You were afraid of me. Not afraid, just aware. Humans do not assume safety. We verify it. You are much bigger than me, much stronger, and your species has predator adaptations I cannot match in a direct fight. So yes, I watched you the same way you watched me. But you never showed it. Because showing fear can escalate situations, Maya explained. Better to stay calm, gather information, and be ready to respond if needed. But I never needed to respond. You never gave me a reason to. Was quiet for a moment. We were both predators, watching each other, waiting to see what would happen. And we both chose to be friends instead, Maya said with a smile. That is how it should work. She went inside, leaving in the corridor with a new understanding. Predators could coexist. They could even cooperate. It just took patience, communication, and the wisdom to know when to hunt and when to help. Maya settled into her bunk, already asleep in the adjacent space. Through the viewport, the stars streamed past as the Academy ship continued its journey through the galaxy. Somewhere out there were thousands of worlds, billions of beings, all learning to live together despite their differences. Humans had joined that great experiment only recently. They brought with them the skills learned from a harsh world, the instincts of apex predators, and the capacity for both great violence and great compassion. Maya closed her eyes, content. Tomorrow there would be classes and studying and the normal routine of student life. She would sit in the back row, take quiet notes, and be there if her friends needed her. Because that was what humans did. They adapted, they survived, and they chose mercy when they had the power to destroy. That choice, more than any weapon or tactic, was what made them truly dangerous and truly human. Their reputation was built on being unstoppable, but that reputation meant nothing if they were all disabled or dead. In the end, survival won. What are your terms? Asked, his voice tight with suppressed rage. Release all hostages. Move to the cargo bay, sit down and wait. Council security forces are already on their way. You will be treated fairly under galactic law. Resist and we handle you ourselves. Choose. Lowered his weapon. We surrender. I could track you, Maya admitted, but I would never hunt you. You are my friend. His ears relaxed slightly. I am still processing all of this. Humans are much more complicated than I thought. Maya laughed. Most things are more complicated once you look closely. That is what makes learning interesting. The next day, he watched Maya in class again. She sat in her usual spot, taking notes, occasionally helping with a difficult concept. She looked so normal, so harmless, but now saw the small details, the way her eyes constantly scanned the room, the way she positioned herself with clear to all entrances, the way she never seemed startled by sudden movements. She was not hiding her nature, she was just being herself, and that realized was what made her truly frightening. This was Maya Carter at rest, relaxed, comfortable. He did not want to see what she looked like when she was not.